start recording the session. So thank you, Melinda, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend with us and answer some questions about the client perspective.
Well, thank you for having me.
We met, it's been two and
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Oh my gosh.
Hmm
3 years ago in Austin, Texas, and we both moved there for work, and we ended up living in the same apartment complex in downtown, and have our little dog. Well, I have dog, you have dogs, and that's
Well, I only had one at the time.
yes, you had Chloe, and we became really good friends, and now you're in San Antonio, Texas, very recently,
Hmm
and
Yep.
I'm in Houston. So, and you are actually in Austin at the moment, correct?
Yes, I am having to work here today.
Okay, so let's get started. Um, I just want to go ahead and have you explain who you are, and why I see value in having you on the call today. And so if you could just kind of go through your story real quick.
Okay, well, I suppose to start off with, I've moved the vast majority of my life. I'm an Army brat, so about every 3 years as a child, we were moving from place to place across the country and even overseas to Germany and back. So the majority was military housing, but we did do some rentals from time to time. And my parents would always use, somebody to be able to find something as far as housing for us. As far as an adult is concerned, I've owned 4 homes myself, and I've done about 6 or 7 rentals throughout the course of my life. And of the 4 homes, I've sold three, two, unfortunately, during a divorce, and one I actually personally sold and have gotten a realtor to help me with that. And the realtor was actually with KW at the time. I'm still actually in contact with her. We've become friends since all of that happened, and she was a great deal of help in selling my house before I left Oklahoma City. So I guess in addition to moving all over the country, the vast majority of my life was spent in Oklahoma City, kind of the Edmond, north of Oklahoma City area, and then down into Oklahoma City. And then I moved from Oklahoma City to West Texas for work, and then moved to Austin a year after that. So, and as far as work is concerned, I'm a medical device sales representative for St. Jude Medical. I've been doing this line of work for about 6 years, and before that, I was a pharmaceutical rep for over 10 years. So, been around the block a time or two.
So would you compare medical sales to, you know me, and so we've gotten close, and you know what my role is and what real estate sales can look like. Would you compare the two? Say that you actually will have to lead generate and build relationships and seek business in what you do?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if we don't build good, strong relationships, we don't have any business. I mean, I think a really great example in that is that my partner and I moved over to St. Jude Medical from Boston Scientific 2 years ago. And because of our strong relationships, we now have the vast majority of the business in Austin, Texas, where we used to have it all with Boston Scientific. All of our customers came over with us. So, yeah, relationships are huge.
So it's about the relationship, not so much about the name, most of the time.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly believe that.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and just start talking about the client perspective of the transaction and the experience. So, my first question to you is, can you go through your first experience with a real estate agent? Just kind of walk us through that.
I think my very first recollection of one would be my first house in Edmond, Oklahoma. Um, it was kind of a big undertaking. It was the very first house I bought on my very own. So it definitely seemed like a hugely daunting task. It didn't take long to find the actual house that I wanted to purchase. But as anybody knows, and especially being a first-time buyer, it's pretty scary to have to sign on the dotted line and get all the needed materials together, that a title company needs and wants. And, to have somebody there to hold my hand along the way was a huge sigh of relief. I'm not going to say I didn't hyperventilate as I was signing on the dotted line still, but it was nice to have that person next to me who, knew what they were doing, who could answer all the questions that I had along the way, who could help me when I didn't know where to turn to get certain information. They would help. Now, this is who you need to contact. This is where you need to go. So it was a great relief and not something I would have wanted to do on my own.
Where do you remember how you found your agent?
I wish I could say I do remember, to be honest with you. I remembered everyone since then, since you were the one that's helped me find everybody since then.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you remember me. Well, and I think that actually does prove a point, though, that I want to make, is that a lot of people over time don't remember exactly how they found their agent, and yet you did say this is the agent you're still in communication with, right?
Actually, that's a separate one. The one that I'm still in communication with, I can't even tell you where I found her, to be honest with you. I just know for some reason, I remember she was part of KW. She's no longer part of KW now. I can't even remember the name of the company she's with now, but somehow I got hooked up with her, and I don't recall how or who who did that. But I do talk to her from time to time. She was actually instrumental in helping me with the current house that I've just recently purchased. She helped me get some information that the title company needed.
Perfect. So for your back to your first transaction, did you feel prepared going into it? I know you said that they held your hand, but before you even started searching or signing anything, did you feel prepared for your transaction?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think as a first time, home buyer, you don't really know what you're getting into. And no matter how prepared or unprepared you are, I think it's a lot to take in. So, I knew what I was doing as far as what I was undertaking, but was I totally prepared? No, absolutely not.
Is there something you think the agent could have done to help that more so than what they did?
I think, and part of it was, a big part of this was probably my fault. I tend to be an impulsive person. So if I see something that I like, I kind of jump at it and I quit looking and quit seeing what other options are out there. So probably the biggest thing that I would like to see different and would have changed of the realtor that I use is maybe if they were a little bit more vocal in guiding me, to seeing all of the options out there as opposed to just stopping on the first thing that I saw that I thought that I wanted. It was a great house. In hindsight, it was probably too much house for me at the time, but I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it, which is not always the best thing for a person.
So I know your personality, and you can be stubborn, and yet so can clients. And so what I'm hearing is that you want an agent to be more vocal and honest with you and say, maybe I know you love it, and what about let's go look at these other two houses because I think they could be great options for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's what was such a great success in Jessica, the recent one that you found for me that, I was able to find the current house I'm in. She was that way. I went to her and said, this is what I wanted. And she was like, okay, great. Here's what you wanted, but how about these other options? And so there's a way to do it where it comes across, as more of a helpful manner as opposed to trying to tell somebody what to do. And I think, with my personality, if somebody would have said, you know what, that's not good for you, let's go look over here, I definitely would have taken offense to something like that. So there's definitely a certain finesse And I think in knowing your client very well, I think you're able to really kind of make yourself more of a chameleon and tailor yourself to what the client needs. And, that's hugely important to me, is for somebody to be honest and open with me.
Great. And is there something that you can recall that you loved about this first transaction that you wouldn't want to have done differently?
Oh gosh, hindsight's 2020. So honestly, there's probably a lot more that I would have liked to have done differently than I would have liked to have kept the same. And I think a lot of that is just in major part that it was my very first house and it was my very first transaction, and I've had exposure since then. So I have the knowledge behind me now. So it's kind of hard to go back in hindsight and keep that as a clean slate and say, oh, well, this part of it was perfect.
Yeah.
I probably could critique every aspect of it and change every aspect of it, to be honest with you.
What I love about that, and obviously I have not guided you in any of these answers, is as a coach, we know that statistically that's how most clients feel out after a transaction. And the goal as agents is to not allow that to be the result for a client. Is obviously there's always hindsight, right? And yet to really prep and prepare your clients, do consultations, set expectations, let them know exactly what's going to happen during the process, and just guide them along the way. And like you said, honesty, being open and honest is important.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your most recent transaction, because I'm definitely, that's going to be the most aware for you, and I am familiar with what happened in this transaction. So can you kind of just set up the stage and talk about what was when did you move, when did you start this process, why were you moving, and how did you meet your agent?
Okay, well, first of all, I met my agent because of you, Lena, and I much appreciate that. I probably started looking, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I started looking around like just after Thanksgiving of last year. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And basically I was moving from Austin to San Antonio because I was about to get a promotion with my company into a different division. And so the central portion of my territory is San Antonio. I also happen to be dating somebody that lives in San Antonio, so it all kind of worked out. But so we spent probably the better part of a month really looking at different places. With the holidays, that's kind of tough. And I had several conversations with Jessica. She was phenomenal. And I think through the course of our conversation, she was just really, really good at listening to what I wanted and even reading between the lines as to what I wanted. Because what I thought I wanted, she was able to bring some other houses that I could look at to the table that I never even thought of, in neighborhoods I never even dreamed of looking at. I gave her a general location of north central San Antonio, and she was able to find my dream home, basically in north central San Antonio, brand new neighborhood, gorgeous house, and I fell in love with it the moment I looked at it. But it also wasn't the first house that I looked at. It was probably the sixth or seventh house that we looked at.
Yeah, and so I know you were in a unique scenario. So you lived in Austin at the time, and the gentleman you're dating was out of state, back and forth, right?
Right.
So talk about how the transaction started. Did she call you? Did you meet with her? How did the beginning of the transaction start with you?
Okay, so that was kind of interesting, and I remember calling you on a couple of occasions because our first correspondences were through text message mainly. we spoke on the phone one time where she wanted to have a face-to-face meeting, and obviously because my boyfriend was out of state working at the time, that was extremely difficult. So we were going to try to look right after Thanksgiving, and then we were having a few text message correspondences. And I know probably at some point you're going to ask me what I would change about this entire experience.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the one thing that I think is important to change. I would, and this may be a generational thing too, you know, because I'm about early to mid 40s, and so I'm of that generation where I would rather talk on the phone than text message constantly.
Yeah.
And there's so much left up to interpretation with text messaging. I think no matter what generation you are, you know, everybody reads a text message differently. So whatever connotation comes across doesn't always come across as it's meant. And there were a couple of small instances where I received text messages and I misinterpreted them. And I did so in a way where it kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. The good thing about Jessica was that she didn't let that go. She didn't, you know, wait an hour and respond back to me. As soon as she saw that I misread something, she immediately explained herself.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that can be saved if you pick up the phone and talk to the client as opposed to text messaging constantly.
I completely agree. And it's also could be easy as asking, how do you prefer to be communicated with?
Right, right. And that was never set up at the beginning.
Yeah, I would think that would be important because there are people who, you know, I had a client that absolutely only wanted text message because they didn't want phone calls during the day at work. And so it was, you text me before 6, call me after 6, and things like that. So asking those questions right up front is, how do you prefer to be communicated with? Is there certain guidelines that you need me to follow?
Yep, that's exactly it.
Oh, go ahead. So we're at the point where you've now kind of you've had that communication, you've gotten past that, and then you started going on showings, correct?
Correct.
How many houses were you seeing at a time? Do you remember?
Oh gosh. Honestly, we actually did one showing of a full day. So we went to one community and saw about 4 houses in that community. And then we went to the second community, which is the one that I found my house in, and saw 3 houses there. So it was one of those things where I found a house that was an inventory home that really fit my needs. So I had decided, of all the houses that I had seen, if I could close on this house before the end of the year, I could get a really, really good deal and build instant equity in a house. So it was one of those things where, you know, as impulsive as I am, this was actually a good financial move for me. And it was something where I needed to move to San Antonio by January 1. So something had to happen quickly for me as well. But it all just kind of fell in line, and I was able to close on the 30th, and it just was a wonderful experience all around.
When you saw all those houses in a day, was it challenging to remember everything, or was there a strategy about how you kept remembering what house had what items?
Well, by the time we were done, I mean, the first group of 4 houses were absolutely beautiful. The location was a little further out than we had wanted, so kind of as we were driving from that neighborhood to the second neighborhood, we were weighing all of our pros and cons of the houses because they were absolutely gorgeous houses. But in the end, one of my criteria is that down the road, I want to make sure that my mother, if she needs to, could live with me. And those houses were built kind of on a rocky side, and so all of the houses had levels. So you had to climb up a great amount of stairs to even get onto the first level of the house. And then when you get into the house, even more levels. So we liked it. We kept it in the back of our heads. We went to the second neighborhood and saw 3 houses. And the easiest way to keep everything separated, they were all pretty similar floor plans. The house that we picked, it was between 2 houses, and the deciding factor basically was that one house had a media room upstairs, where the other one, same exact floor plan, just didn't have the upstairs media room.
Okay.
And so, that made it easy to differentiate and remember which house was which.
So you just remembered kind of the key, like you zoned in on one feature of the house and remembered that about it.
Correct.
Okay, great. Did you ever, I should have asked this from the beginning. Did you ever sign any agreements with the agent?
We did, but not until we found a house and started to go under contract.
Okay.
We talked about it in the beginning, but I preferred to wait until we found something and started the process.
So what made you do that? I'm just out of curiosity. What was important to you about that?
Honestly, I think I just felt like I was kind of shackled, if I had to, for lack of a better way of describing it, to sign something. I preferred just to kind of see what would happen first before I, signed on the dotted line anywhere for anything.
Gotcha. Okay. And what is the number one most important factor of having an agent for you?
Just doing the work for me. I work very long hours, and by the time I get home, I'm exhausted, so I don't have time to try to weed through the, zillions of houses that are available out there and see the lemons and do all of that. So just the ease of it and the fact that, the realtor is really your expert. They know all the ins and outs. They know where to look for things. When you tell them what you'd like, they know where to go. So it just streamlined the process.
Yeah. Great. Would you, I think I know the answer to this question, but would you use your agent again there in San Antonio?
Oh, absolutely. And I've already recommended her a couple of times to a couple of people.
That's awesome. And because I know you're a very loyal person, so when you're treated professionally, you do refer the people that you work with, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think I've referred you, maybe half a dozen times already.
Yes, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I wish I could do the same.
Oh, that's okay.
Um, and would it be a negative or positive if your agent stayed in touch with you after the closing?
I think with the given experience that I had recently, it would be a positive. I think it depends on what your experience is, but if it was a good relationship and a positive experience, absolutely. Because you never know. I mean, my boyfriend and I just recently talked about, probably in 5 years we might look for a house with a bigger backyard. I mean, we've got a nice backyard, but we'd like to put a pool in, and this one's a little on the small side for a pool. So, for a realtor to keep in touch with a client that you've had a good experience with, I mean, that's another house that you're selling and helping to purchase 5 years down the road or whatever that may be.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you just can't stay still, Melinda.
Well, I've moved 5 times in 3 years, so I think that says a lot.
Yeah, I know the feeling, so.
But I've bought this time, so I'm staying put for a while.
Okay. Well, I'll put money on that.
Okay.
So we went through basically all the main questions, but is there anything you could advise agents to do for their clients? 1 or 2 things that you really think is important for agents to know to help their clients out?
I think I can't stress enough what we've already discussed as far as making sure you ask ahead of time how that person likes to be communicated with. I think that's critical. The other thing is I think actively listening to your client is very critical, and learning how to read between the lines of that client too, because what the client a lot of times thinks that they want, you may figure out through the course of conversation that's not exactly what they do want. There's something else that's better for them out there. And so it's always good to throw in options that maybe the client hasn't thought about.
Awesome. Well, if there are there, we're gonna open it for any questions. If you want to go ahead and type in the chat bar, we'll wait a second. Doesn't look like anything's coming in, so I really appreciate your time, Melinda, and everyone who took the time to come out and listen today. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.